Y tres.
Hello, today we're going to talk about the way that the coronavirus pandemic has had a positive effect on the society and the environment in Mexico. We have a debate. We have two teams. The team in favor, Carlos and Javier, and the team against, Denise and Andy, with a total of 26 minutes of the debate. Let's first stage. We start with an introductions with the team in favor.
We are the first team, and we believe that the coronavirus pandemic has led to a positive outcome. The reason being that society and environment in Mexico have improved immensely. As to society, the main argument to debate is there has been numerous scientific advances, like the vaccines and all that. When COVID emerged, no vaccine based on RNA had ever approved, and not mention how quickly they were created. On the other hand, the confident managed to bring families closer, hunting parents with their children. Also, they helped to build new relationships and discovering new technologies like Zoom and all these type of meetings. Now, in relation of the environment, those who live in the city have noticed an upgrade in their urban surroundings with cleaner smelling air and calmer roads. This is the result in part of the reduction of carbon dioxide emissions by the use of cars, etc. And we are going to use some definitions. For example, vaccine is a substance used to stimulate the production of antibodies. Development, that is a process that creates growth, positive change, and all this in terms of medicine. And social benefit are current transfer received by households intended to provide the needs that arise, that economic help, and all that type of things.
Let's continue with the team against.
Hi, so we are against this debate proposition. So this team will expose the negative side of the COVID-19 pandemic regarding the social and environmental aspects from 2020 to 2021. Since the beginning of the pandemic, coronavirus has had a negative impact on the whole world. When addressing the arguments to discuss, we can see that among the most affected social aspects is family disruption. Unlike what the affirmative team believes, by staying at home all the time, the younger generation is showing signs of mental health conditions, such as anxiety and depression. Following this, parents started getting more and more stressed about parenting their children, how to raise them. Without a doubt, this had an impact in the family dynamics. Now, another social point to touch is the education. The difficulties of distance learning are overwhelming, even in the cases where there is equipment and connectivity that we know are luxuries reserved for few families. Students are not receiving the education they deserve and what they pay for, and this will have a massive impact on their future careers. Having said that, we can take a look at the environmental issues. There is an increase in the use of plastics, from face shields or vaccine syringes to food containers. By consuming more and more, we are polluting the environment. Similarly, there is an excessive use of energy and electricity that will lead to more contamination because we are using non-renewable energy sources. Now, the definitions we will touch are family disruption, which are events that disrupt the structure of individual families. Next is distance learning, which is a form of education that involves the separation of teachers and students. And lastly, we have pollution, which are negative impacts of contaminants in the environment. This situation is caused by the use of resources. Thank you.
Okay, second stage, rebuttals. We start with the arguments for and against each team. Given team has 2 minutes to answer each. Let's start with the first team.
The first premise of the team in favor is about how the vaccines have improved, or how scientists have improved in the vaccines field. First of all, at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, there was no specific advancements regarding the vaccine, but only 1 year later, it was available Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, Sputnik, and even many others from every country. This only shows that the process of making a vaccine that has been taking a lot of time, even years, time ago, has been improved only in 1 year with the cooperation of all the countries and different laboratories all around the world for only one objective: create a vaccine to cure all this problem. Also, this has become an historical event because it shows how the mixing the science, technology, and the union can really create a great advancement, not only in the science field but in others.
Let's continue with the team against.
Thank you. Our first argument will be around the problem that education rates during the coronavirus pandemic in Mexico has dropped. Here in our country, at the beginning of the pandemic, several schools couldn't keep up with the new online format because they didn't have the resources to put their programs online or even the money to do it. Also, according to the Instituto Nacional de Estadística y Geografía, INEGI, at least 5 million students drop out of school because of financial problems, family issues, and even health problems that were related to coronavirus. This represents a big problem because not only our generation is getting behind, all of the generations will be affected by this. Of course, the Mexican government has implemented public education in television since primary school to secondary school. This to take into considerations the people that cannot afford online school. The problem is that not everyone has access to a computer or even a television or even TV signal. There are a lot of people that are living in the rural areas that they don't have access or even the money to go to school. So education rates in Mexico are dropping, and this will make a social problem if it's not going to be attended into a future.
Okay, let's continue with the team in favor.
The next argument is the emission reduction. Since the pandemic, due to lockdown, people has not been able to use vehicles, reducing the amount of emissions. At the pandemic start, all the activities stopped completely. Work become home office, factories stopped, school started in Zoom, Google meetings, etc. And so on. All those trips where the use of convenience were in it suddenly were interrupted, meaning that the CO2 emissions lowered their negative impact. According to the International Energy Agency, global carbon emissions from energy usage fell by almost 8%, the biggest drop in the history. This helped the ozone to heal in record time, and according to the World Meteorological Organization, this is due to the fact that external factors such as the last mentioned helped to achieve the necessary conditions. Also, no of the emissions levels were improved. The contamination to fabrics, tourists, markets stopped. And this showed that the work can be done in an hybrid mode, where the presence and the office isn't always necessary, lowering the use of light, cars, and supplies.
Okay, team against, do you have another argument?
Yes. Our next argument is related to the family. Coronavirus has had an impact in every sphere of life by affecting the force that bonds the system, may it be the body immunity system, the family system, the social system, or even the educational system. Actually, one of these spheres that has been the most affected is the family system. Now, it is vital to address the fact that the COVID-19 pandemic is the main reason why the Mexican household situations have changed, and above all, households with children. A survey conducted by UNICEF in 2020 reveals that 32% of households with girls and boys reported a drop in their income during quarantine, while 50% are in a situation of food insecurity. This all directly affects the wellness of the family. But there are many statistics and points we can discuss. For example, UNICEF mentions that the pandemic has also increased mental health and food security challenges. Regarding family coexistence, 36% of households with children reported symptoms of severe anxiety, and 34% reported that discussions and tension have increased. It may seem like a small amount, but still, people are having a hard time just by staying at home. Mostly teenagers are suffering from mental health conditions. They are not used to spending all day, every day at home, but no one really is. And even though spending more time with family is a good thing, an excessive amount of time can cause problems to arise. Staying at home for long periods of time can create tension between family members, not to mention the possibility of domestic violence. Because of this, it's relevant to mention that the need to isolate ourselves and the health crisis directly affects our basic need for security, because bad decisions that trigger little assertive behaviors can lead couples to crisis and families to fall apart.
Okay, thank you. Let's start with the third argument with another team of Infer.
For our last argument, we are going to talk about the usage of new technologies for education and social interactions. During rough times is when innovation emerged. So in a modern era full of technology, it is logical that it will innovate in order to adapt to the complex situation we are living in. Our main focus will be surrounding the educational and social environment's positive effects. First of all, we have the positive technologies, which, as the name suggests, are technologies used for improving the personal experience. It divides into three main levels: hedonic, eudaimonic, and interpersonal. In eudaimonic level, the objective is to produce sensorial pleasure, make you feel good, and create positive emotions. For example, virtual reality have been proven to be very effective for emotion regulation. Also, it had been used in Italy as a tool for prevent and treatment of stress-related problems or disorders. In the next level, eudaimonic, whose target is to create happiness, self-realization, and promote resilience, is present by another example using the VR mentioned before. Well, how? The way it works is by showing a sequence of relaxing videos a certain amount of time each day in order to prevent people from getting overstressed about all the events around them. And finally, at level 3, interpersonal, where the main goal is to achieve shared activities and take care of others, is represented by all the social media used for communication between people separated by long distances, sharing important information, and the use of video conference programs like Zoom, Google Meets, etc., in order to keep the world connected.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to listening the last argument for the other team.
Thank you. Well, right now our argument is going to be environmental from 2020 to 2021. And right now, as our society has increased the levels of consumption, not only in the medical field, because also in the online sales like Amazon, because the creation, the consumption, and the distribution of articles such as face masks or masks or gloves that involves a lot of plastic are being needed right now. A lot of these end in disease. According to the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, at least the 75% of plastic generated during the pandemic will become a waste that will end up polluting the sea. This is a basic problem because plastic pollution will affect people and groups in vulnerable situations that put their health and well-being at risk. And this will put obstacles to the sustainability of development goals. The pandemic increased the amount of online purchases, and because a lot of people have the privilege to stay at home, order things, and do not care about what happened with each other. But when people are doing this, their carbon footprint is increasing, and not only theirs, the companies that are selling these items are impacting in a negative way the environment. So we do not think that this has a positive impact in the pandemic because it's a negative impact.
Okay, thank you very much. Third stage questions. You have a minute to ask questions to the other team. The other team has 1 minute to answer them. Let's start with the first team in favor.
Okay, the first question is, despite your arguments, more than 50% of the population, according to the Universidad del Valle de México, believes that the pandemic has not been bad and has adapted quickly, which means that there is not a great social problem, or is there?
Okay, another team, the answer.
Okay, thank you. Well, despite what some people said, there are a lot of people that have died, lost their jobs, that people are ending up living into the streets, and also not only the social impact, because also the environmental impact has been negative. There has been no such as positive way to see the pandemic, because this is a problem that is affecting the whole world. So I think that that source is not being completely true.
Okay, do you have something else to say on the team one?
No.
Okay, let's start with the question of the team two.
Yes, so as you said, vaccines take years to completely be safe. So our question is, what happens with the people that already have some health issues that can be affected with the side effects of this vaccine?
It have been shown by statistics that the amount of people that have, the death rate of the coronavirus is a little percentage all around the world. And that percentage, from that percentage, many of the people are, as you tell them, are people that have already health issues. So what we can do for them at the beginning of the pandemic was to like lock them out, because they were the most affected. They can be the most hurt ones. But now that vaccines have been created, they have been shown to be the first one to be in the front, the first one to be like vaccine. So they can be like, that risk can be reduced.
Okay, thank you. Your question, team in favor.
The next question is, why will students have problems in the way they learn? Because this new way of teaching gives us the highest range of students who pass their exams and approve courses, etc. And that means that the education is not a problem in this moment.
Okay, according to some reports and news that I have read, this is the people that have the privilege to study online. There are people that are taking the classes on the TV, or that can't even get to get the material. So even though the education levels in grades are increasing, some students are just copying the stuff from the internet. So that's not real results. Those data is affected. So I think that, no, I do not think. My research says that these do not have a positive effect and the education is being affected.
Okay, thank you. Your next question, team two.
At the beginning, you said that there was no research done about the coronavirus vaccine, but I have some different information. There is a college, the Albany College of Pharmacy, that has been studying the coronavirus and how to create a vaccine for over 50 years. So where are you getting this information that we haven't done research about this?
Well, I can have an issue with that, because, as you know, the doctor that was in charge of delivering the information about coronavirus, well, he was censored. All the information that he wanted to show the world, he can't tell them because of the government, China government. So that's why I can really verify my information, not because of my fault, because the limitation I got.
Okay, thank you. And your last question, team number one.
Okay, in the last question, the director of the CFE commented that the electricity rates did not increase during the pandemic. So that means there is not a greater consume in this case. It's the same than always.
Well, I think that we didn't set any argument relating to CFE, so I think that your question is out of place, so I don't know what proceeds.
Okay, thank you. And your last question, team number two.
You mentioned something about the benefits of technology, but I don't think we're looking at the bigger picture because by the use of all of these new technologies have risen an addiction to them and teenagers are becoming more and more addicted to them. So what happens there?
Well, if you wanted to divide it that way, we need to first of all divide by classes. We can talk about a kindergarten kid against a college student. So I will recommend, because the analysis we get was especially focused in college students because they are more responsible. No, you know that they have because they have flexible schedules, they can organize their time, they can do more stuff, and it can also they get benefits because they don't have to move to the place where they need to study, and also the cost of studying will that decrease a lot because you are all studying at home. So I will recommend really divide and specify for which kind of students you are asking me that point.
Okay, thank you. The last part, fourth stage, conclusions. You have 1 minute to prepare the questions and 2 minutes to answer each team. Let's start with Team WAF in favor.
For our conclusion, the team in favor respect the opposite ideas, even accepting some of them. For example, the stress that lockdown caused on families and the repercussion it has on them, especially because of the stress. But because we cannot but we say this because we cannot close our eyes and deny all the bad stuff that is happening around the world. But even if we accept some of the posture, we cannot agree fully with them. We reinforce the idea that the coronavirus not only caused damage, but it's in certain ways produce positive effects. History has taught us that the crisis is when people innovate and overcome those issues. And if we only focus on the bad points, victimize ourselves, and giving the fault to all external sources, it won't let us advance and see the other side of the hill.
Okay, thank you. Let's listen in the conclusion of the team two.
Thank you. The team against firmly oppose the arguments that the team in favor discussed. Although we recognize your research and your points, most of them cannot be supported by real data. By stating our arguments, we demonstrate the degree of severity of the situation. Not also social problems are being held, environmental, and also there's a lot of people that are being affected. There's plenty of statistics that back up our research, such as UNICEF, the UN, the INEGI here in Mexico, studies and investigations that made up by prestigious universities. By exposing the devastating impact that the coronavirus pandemic has been for both of the social and environmental view, we defend our posture and believe that we should win. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Congratulations for both teams, and well, this has been everything today. Thank you very much for all your arguments and opinions.